Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carvel Community Meeting. Today's date is October 14th, 2021. If you are watching this as a recording on YouTube, we invite you to come and join us live. We meet every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. It's an opportunity for you to come and listen in on what the maintainers are working on, what they're thinking about, and present. And you yourself can present any ideas that you want the maintainers to work on regarding the Carvel tool suite. Additionally, if you have any questions or need help with using any of the tools, the maintainers are able to help you during this meeting as well. When you attend live, you can put the discussion topics that you wish to bring to the team down at the agenda in the discussion topics section. So those that are on the call right now, if you have any discussion topics, feel free to put them down there. If you aren't able to attend these meetings and still would like to engage with the maintainers, you can reach them on the Carvel Slack channel and the Kubernetes Slack workspace. If you're not a member of that Slack workspace, you can request an invitation to gain access. And we are also found on Twitter at Carvel_dev. When you are interacting with us, whether it be in the meeting, in Slack, on Twitter, on GitHub, we require that you please read and abide by our code of conduct. All right, next up, if you are attending the meeting live, please put your name and any organization that you are representing down here in the agenda. This helps us keep track of those that are attending that are outside of the maintainer circle, and we can keep the lines of communication open. If you're using those tools, the Carvel tools, we also invite you to input the details about how you use Carvel into this pinned issue that's on the Carvel repo. And you can put your logo for your organization on there as well. And it helps us learn more about the way that others are using the tools, as well as help promote your organization as well. Okay, next on to the announcements. We have the Carvel keynote at KubeCon Cloud Native Con happening tomorrow, October 15th at 9:40 a.m. Pacific time. So if you haven't registered to attend KubeCon yet and want to attend virtually, there is still time. If you're attending in person, we encourage you to go and drop by the last day of keynotes to check out this 5-minute keynote covering Carvel. Shadarupa is going to be doing a short demo. And once you view that, feel free to find us back on Slack and give us any questions that you might have after watching it. And as a reminder, Carvel is participating in Hacktoberfest. What you'll need to do is keep an eye out for the Hacktoberfest topic labeled on our repos. Right now, we just have it on image package repo and specifically labeled Hacktoberfest labeled issues. And if you're participating in Hacktoberfest and want to help out the Carvel team, go to image package repo, check out these issues, and help us out. And you can also earn a free t-shirt once you hit 4 pull requests.
Just
all right.
one note there, Kapp also has some issues, so I'll drop a link there.
Okay, great. Thank you. We got some releases to cover here. We got YTT 0.37. Anybody want to go over this release?
Yeah, this one's an exciting one. We've got a couple of improvements here. First of all, thanks to Cobra, we've got command completion, like shell command completion, kind of just comes for free almost. There's some docs that we want to do around that to like make that a little bit easier. That's forthcoming, but the command is there, is present. The other thing is we got a contribution for a new module in our standard library for parsing IP addresses and CIDR blocks. So that's all there to go. It's documented. Go check that out. Super cool. Appreciate the contribution. And then as alongside that, that same group implemented very small but rather powerful new feature in the assert module is this try to feature, which allows you to attempt to do something, say like parse some JSON, and you're not sure whether or not it's going to succeed, and you don't want it to be a failure if it fails. You don't want it to end your YTT execution. You just want to learn about that, oh, there is an error, and maybe you try something else differently. Now you can do that with try to. It's great for helping out if you want to write tests where you have functions that return errors. Also, there's documentation there about that. So really, really meaningful release here.
Great, thanks, John. And a special shout out to those that helped us out that are outside of the maintainer circle: Tyler Schultz, Christian Eng, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Mikhail Manukian, and Enwen Shi. Really appreciate all your help with this release. All right, next up we got KBuild 0.31. Anybody able to go over this one?
Yeah, this one's also contributor led as well as great. We've got a whole new builder in KBuild now, right? Because KBuild helps you build container images and resolve them to digests. And you can plug in many of your favorite tools to do the actual container image building. Now you can use Bazel, which is a really well-known, commonly used general purpose build tool. The integration is there. So go check that out. We do have a breaking change in the body of an annotation with this release, where we used to refer to something called metas, and now we're using a term which we feel is much more intention revealing: origins, where the information contained within the origin annotation tells you from where did this container image come from. So if it's built from source, you get to see the Git repo. That's the data has always been present. Git repo, whether or not your directory was dirty when you did the build, or from other sources. That information's always been there. We're just now referring to them instead of metas as origins. So check that out. And then finally, like a really important piece is actually plumbing that very data all the way through into your image package lock files. So now when you are using that full Carvel flow from build to deploy, including KBuild in your in that flow, those annotations will get attached to your resources as they go into the cluster. And so now you can inspect your resources and see your origins information there.
Cool. Thanks, John. And then thanks to at Kaiju.
That's Charlie. Yep.
Charlie, thanks Charlie. Okay, next up, we got a release 0.2 of image package.
I can talk about this one. Yeah, so basically there's a new flag added, --debug. It's a global flag. So this is useful if you get a generic error back from image package and you want to know like a bit more details on what went wrong. Because image package deals with multiple registries, it basically tells you the flow between image package and each of the registries you're interacting with, and it helps you narrow down potentially an issue in that flow between image package and a specific registry. So it shows all the HTTP calls being made. It redacts the sensitive information. Thanks for Nicholas Stimulate for adding that. For folk using image package as a library, we've bumped Golang to 1.17. And also there's a bug fix. So if you're using Windows and using image package on Windows, it now loads the root C8 store. So if you're using TLS, HTTPS on a registry, and it was signed by a trusted C8 authority, then it now is able to verify that certificate. And there's docs in terms of if you want to also use your own custom CA and also be able to load the root C8 store, you refer to the docs on how to do that for Windows specifically.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Okay, project roadmap updates. All right. Doesn't look like there's anyone here to go over cap stuff. I'll go click on these backlog. Sounds like this might be helpful. So image package enhancements.
I can talk what I'm working on. I'm working on basically having the ability for image package to basically right now image package, you can push files in the form of an OCI image to like a registry. And the use case is folk want to just basically have a really quick way of getting that image to a tar file. And right now you got to push it to a registry to copy it down to a tar file. The feature I'm working on is to have the ability to basically write from a local file system to directly to a tarball containing multiple images, bundles, etc. You know, skipping the step of having to push it to a registry first. Yep, that's what I'm working on.
Oh, thanks, Dennis. Skip over cap unless anyone has anything to say about cap that's on the call.
I think they're working on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add. I think that they've been working on the cluster fulfilled resources epic. And yeah, I think it's just in flight. I don't have tons of insight, but that's something that they've been focusing on for their next release.
Cool, thanks, Aaron. And then I was just going to say for those watching at home, the CAP team is based in India, so this time is a little bit difficult for them to attend, but sometimes we do have one or two of them on here to help answer any questions about CAP that you may have. Okay, on to YTT. How is that going along?
It's going good. We've got a story in flight to export a YTT data value schema map items to a OpenAPI document. So this is the second story in this epic, and we've got a couple more upcoming to add an annotation and then support the additional features that we have in YTT schema right now. I also expect that we'll have a few more stories added to YTT around OpenAPI in the near future. So if you're curious about features that will be upcoming, keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Okay, Carvel Backlog. I think this is left over from previous meeting, unless I'm. Is there anything folks want to go over, particular with kapp-controller or vendor that they're working on?
Just to give a, or go ahead, Joe.
Well, how much you want to bet we were going to say different things, or that? Anyways, I was going to call out that we're even one step closer to moving our image repository to the GitHub container registry, and that pull request is poised to be merged in the near future, and then we'll start cutting releases that are stored on GitHub container registry.
Hey, Joe, does that include, there's like a Docker image that we from time to time have published that contain a bunch of the Carvel tools? Will we be moving that as well, or would that stay on Docker Hub? Do you know?
No, I don't. That's a good question. We probably should move them consistently. I know, like, after we move kapp-controller, the next thing is to move secret gen controller. I would imagine we'll just move everything to be consistent. I think that's part of the vision, is to get rid of the Docker Hub account management eventually. But that's not necessarily.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
I will just add into that Neil has or worked on a quick story for basically removing proxy credentials that were showing up in some kapp-controller logs. So we had a small issue with just basically that we would actually like log the proxy in and of itself. That basically did not account for the fact that, you know, there can be credentials actually as part of that proxy format that were included in those logs. So there's been a quick PR that's been put in to just basically remove that information.
Great, thanks Daniel and Joe. Anything for vendor?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I've been. All right, on to discussion topics. How can we speed up docs PRs?
Yeah, this topic came up from some conversation I had with some people that might be here. But we talked about how it can be challenging to get docs PRs to land. Probably due to a number of things. So maybe it's worth elaborating on what are the problems that we are facing, maybe before we try to solve it. But I imagine some of y'all have faced this challenge in the past. And I'm curious, like, what have been like the particular pain points for you when trying to move a PR through to merge docs PR specifically?
For me, writing docs is particularly hard because the most effective docs are economic with their words. So the fewer words written, the more words read. And it's hard to get to that succinct. I find it hard to get to that succinct expression that doesn't lose information or is too terse. So that's one thing that takes a while to figure out when we've reached that level, and sometimes through feedback that becomes clearer. That's one piece.
I think stuff can linger, right? So it's like you can put like, because we don't have deadlines, you could say so, right, like if you go look at the Carvel website right now, there's like quite a number of open PRs. Some of them are pretty old, some of them are from this week, and in none of those cases is it really clear, like, right, you can't just say, oh well, the unit tests are passing and it's been up for 48 hours, so I'm going to merge it. And in fact, who is responsible for merging them? So I would say unclear when it's done, and yeah, unclear whose job it is to hit merge.
I think that sometimes I wonder if like more tightly coupling like docs to like an actual feature or some type of fix, like the actual story itself, and like the issue is not actually closed until like the docs should in essence like close the PR, depending on like in what order they happen, right? Like if a story has docs, then the issue itself is not closed until you submit a docs PR and it like actually closes out that issue. So in some ways, I think like putting like an actual like reason to like write the docs themselves is, I at least think like that's like sometimes a pain point from the kapp-controller standpoint, is there hasn't always been like I think like sometimes like docs can get lost sometimes because they're not always like included as part of stories, is one like pain point.
Yeah, that's been my experience with an image package, which is, you know, the last two things I talked about, the -- debug flag, the Windows bug. Each of them, as part of the stories working on them, we deemed it necessary to add documentation. So the actual code change PR was approved by the image package approver. Similarly, when we raised a PR for the Carvel documentation and Carvel repo, the person who approved it was also the image package approver. So that's how the model that we used, and it seemed to work well. I mean, it got merged before the release, so we could link the release notes to the documentation.
Speaking of like when the timing of the merges, there's one thing that's slightly ambiguous in my head is wanting to time the merge of the documentation change with the release of the tool. So I've heard kind of two positions on that. One is put it in draft, and then when you're ready to go, put it in draft so that it doesn't get merged accidentally ahead of time. And then when you're ready to go, pull it out of draft and have it merged. Like have that be part of the release process. So there's some kind of approval before that moment. And then the other is, well, if you put a version caveat in the docs, then you can merge at any time. It's just that you're going to have documentation that describes a feature that's available for a version of the tool that isn't quite released. Like maybe it'll be released like within the next week or so. And then to complicate things, we actually had a proposal to talk about a way of using version docs. Went through a whole process, approved the proposal, but there's work to be done to like make that a thing, and we haven't done that work. So there's sort of some ambiguity around how do we handle versions.
Just to add, I've spoken to some doc writers internally before, and they have said that no one has ever complained that the docs were ahead of a feature, but they always complain when it's missing. If you release something and there are no docs, they always complain. But if you put something up, that they have like never gotten a complaint for that. That's just like anecdotally, right? But they would prefer that over it being missing when you release.
Cool. I tried to take notes and capture, I guess, some of the root causes or like open questions, and even tried to provide some answers if we have agreed upon them. So largely, I guess these are looking like the first item, writing docs are challenging. Don't yet have, I guess, any sort of like, I guess, does anyone have a mitigative step or action here that we can consider? Okay, I agree.
I mean, I have a snarky response, which is, what if we could get a doc writer in here? Like, you know, a professional.
Great idea. I'll capture that.
I've been told that that's kind of in the works. And I think the doc writer would be under my team, like under Jonas's team. Because it seems like a lot of the doc writers are on the CET team. So I think it's DAP budget, but under us or something weird like that. But I know that he has talked to Polkit and others, and I think there is approval.
So until then, it's your team's responsibility. So see Nancy.
That's what I heard.
Just
Yeah, that's it.
cool, check.
And done.
Cool. Well, for now, I think there's some level of acceptance. Writing docs are challenging, but there is a next step here. Is could we find someone who's more dedicated, more experienced here? So the next one I had, I think, is along the lines of kind of when. So there's like two whens here. When is a PR, I guess, done? And then the other one is when it's done, when do we merge them? So maybe we'll start with when is a PR done?
I'll voice. I agree with it enough. Dimitri, who's not here, and I agree with it enough to repeat it. Said basically, even bad docs are better than missing docs. And so the argument is like, we should merge quickly and then go ahead and revise, but that we might be lingering too long in the like, oh, let me make sure, like, Neil, did you want me to change that from to a to, or I'm picking on Neil, but
+1. For picking on Neil. I don't know about that whole other point.
Okay, I saw quite a few nods. So maybe there's just like this kind of general agreement that we're okay with merging more quickly and revising as needed. Is there anything further that we want to do? Like actually, I don't know, have like a policy that we want to enforce with ourselves? Like, if I don't hear feedback within X amount of hours, days, I can just move forward, or to some
We
degree.
could almost we
Mhm.
could almost treat it like a website. Like, just do it. And then if it's not perfectly right, let's fix it. And people can make, I mean, if there's something where it's like, I want help, so I'd like to hold back because I want certain people to like put their fingerprint on it in some way or their perspective on it, then like cool, more power to you. But maybe it's just like, why not just leave it sort of wide open? It's a website that we all edit.
That sounds good to me. So just capturing that as use your best judgment, merge it if you're comfortable, ask for reviews when you'd like them. As we already covered, bad docs are better than missing docs.
I think the one like wrinkle there could be there's a big difference between I'm adding a doc, I'm correcting a bug in a doc, versus I've decided to re-architect all of our sidebars, right? So it's maybe there's an argument to be made that refactors, especially like sweeping ones, probably warrant more discussion than I'm documenting my recent work.
Cool. That's a good catch. Okay. Maybe that helps for the when it's done. Another one then, or the next one here is who is responsible for merging them?
That makes it sound like it's a self-merge situation.
Cool. And then as for the other one, when do we merge them? I think a couple things were mentioned, using the draft to signal a PR is not yet ready to merge. I think that's a great strategy. The version doc proposal is probably like the real long-term solution. It's not yet prioritized, but is there anything else here that folks want to share?
Yeah, I kind of dug what Neil was sharing, that like you could even just I mean, especially if you're putting in version caveats around stuff, then that helps it from being in some way ambiguous. And so then there's no timing. And so then you just do it. And it's easier to not miss. Because if you write it and you're like, hey, this is good enough, it's got the version caveats emergent, you're not trying to remember to do that later.
Cool. Cool. Did we do it? Did we speed up our docs PR process now?
PR's ready, no waiting.
Get in there and smash merge. Done. Cool. I think we can move to the next one.
Awesome. And I got a quick update on the docs writer rec. It will most likely be happening in the new year. So don't hold your breath.
Which new year? Just check
The
in.
new year, whenever there's a new year.
Oh,
Okay, so general guidance for developers, contributors. Ooh.
I can talk through that real quick. Actually, do you mind if I share a screen? So that I think that's the pull request link is in the minutes, and I wanted to, not in great detail, but briefly, like at a table of contents level, the contents of this document, it's under this shared docs. I don't know how to navigate to this page from our actual homepage, but I do know how to type shared docs latest. Maybe we need to link. Anyways, everyone on the team has been through at least one discussion of this previously, and but you know, if someone is actually watching this recording, first of all, hi, I'm surprised, but second of all, maybe you care what's on here. That, you know, there's information about how to name things, how to structure the code, and like we have some opinions about when to be dry and when not to be. A little bit of planning. There's, in some ways, maybe the juiciest section is like we have a few specific, you know, opinions about how to write Go, and then there's some hopefully helpful instructions on you know, testing, branching, releasing, etc. And so I am going to leave this up, even despite our discussion. I'm going to leave this as a pull request for another day or two. And if I think there was a few helpful comments on it earlier in the week, and maybe I'll plan on merging it on Monday or Tuesday of next week, unless there's you know, someone finds some issues. But anyways, open for comment for a little bit longer, and then subject to anyone changing it. So that's, thanks. I don't know, happy to take comments now, but
I didn't even know that existed. So definitely need to find a way to make it easier to navigate to on the website.
I can tell you the pro tip of how you get there now, but it's like very much finding the warp tunnel. It's not obvious.
yeah, maybe we could put it under like the resources of it.
Cool. Well, if anyone has ideas for how we make this more easy to discover, a PR is a good place to start that discussion. I threw out the last question, which today we've had some really great discussions. At times I've felt that we've hit the discussion part of this meeting and haven't had time, or haven't had things that we wanted to chat about. A quick search of our backlog tells me of our cumulative backlog tells me we have more than 120 issues with the discussion label. What if we used this time to start slowly going through those and like having the discussion to clarify what we want some of these issues to be? See nods. Any concerns that people have?
I guess like right, it's always possible that we discuss something about, well, kapp-controller, and like Neil and Daniel and I have one level of access of knowledge, right? And then I think that's going to be true for any tool, is there's going to be 1 to 3 people at the meeting who have kind of specialist knowledge of that tool because they're in that code base regularly. So I guess I'm curious what the expectation would be. Would it be like, and today we're just talking about YTT issues you can drop if that's not going to be helpful for you? Or would it be like, you know, today we're going to do 1 from YTT, 1 from kapp-controller, and the point is, you know, mesh a little.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I just added a note here that we'd want to ensure the folks in the meeting are the quote unquote right folks for the discussion. And I do agree, probably like blocking them together by some sort of domain or some interest would probably be more effective than just like a grab bag of things. So yeah, maybe there's a little more preparation here that's needed to make sure that we invite, you know, any of the right people, but something to consider, I guess, as people are throwing around the discussion label.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try it out, but I'd be skeptical, like mainly because I'm wondering if we have all the right stakeholders as well. So a lot of these issues, at least when image package to discussions, came from outside folk, you know, who are using the tool, and it might be 2 or 3 outside folk. They may not be part of the conversation in this meeting, so we might be missing out on some of their voices. Might kind of be like a little echo chamber going on if we talk amongst ourselves, but definitely willing to try it out to see if we can make any progress in these like stale, you know, issues.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Maybe that's the carrot they need to attend these meetings. Cool. Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything to do now. It's more of something to keep in mind as we have these ongoing discussions, and if we want to try and nudge them forward, this is a great time to do so synchronously.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Okay, anything else the team wishes to discuss? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. And if you're watching this from home, we'd love to have you join us live. And with that, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.